sports. It's in the game.
The Azerbaijan Grand Prix started life as the European Grand Prix back in 2016, and for every year since, it has delivered career-defining moments and classic racing. Who can forget the career-defining podium for Lance Stroll, his first in Formula 1, a surprise podium for Sergio Perez in a Racing Point, a collision between two Red Bulls, back then Daniel Ricciardo and Max Verstappen, and a last lap tyre blowout for Valtteri Bottas on the way to a certain victory. And it's back after a year's absence due to the pandemic. 20 corners, 2 DRS zones. Some of the corners can't be considered corners here, while the 2 DRS zones are down after turn 1, or turn 2 rather, and the second down the longest straight in Formula 1, twice the length of Shanghai's back straight. Well, we were coming into this weekend expecting Mercedes to take their 6th win in a row, but as we take a look at the grid, that procession could be broken today, because the Red Bulls of Sergio Perez and Max Verstappen locked out the front row, with Perez edging out his teammate by 41 hundredths per second as the front row continues to be separated by less than a tenth. Mercedes had to settle for a second row lockout with Hamilton ahead of Bottas, while Norris and Leclerc line up in their traditional positions of 5th and 6th. Carlos Sainz was the first of a plethora of grid penalties, down in 7th. Lance Stroll got promoted to 8th as a plethora of grid penalties also. Daniel Ricciardo is in 9th, followed by Kimi Raikkonen, Pierre Gasly and Yuki Tsunoda in their traditional positions on row 6. Sebastian Vettel down in 13th alongside Antonio Giovinazzi. George Russell in 15th ahead of Esteban Ocon. Nicholas Latifi got ahead of Aiden Jackson, who finished last in qualifying because Mick Schumacher and Fernando Alonso had to take grid penalties. That promoted him up to 18th. And it's Schumacher and Alonso on the back row. Alonso getting a penalty for a misdemeanor with Tsunoda in qualifying, put him at the back of the grid. He will be starting on the soft tyres, and Schumacher will be starting on the mediums. He also had to take a penalty due to a component change.
Good on the power unit cycle,
so the surprise of the day was definitely Kimi Raikkonen, and even Carlos Sainz to a degree. Carlos Sainz would have been higher than 7th on the grid, but he had to take a grid penalty. Ferrari also bringing their new B-spec power unit, and it has certainly aided the Ferrari-powered teams in a sense, with Sainz getting near the front before his grid penalty, and Kimi Raikkonen getting into the top 10 for Alfa Romeo for the first time in almost a year, I believe. But sadly for HAAS, it's not been so fortunate. Back of the grid traditionally at the end of qualifying, but Schumacher and Alonso had to take penalties, which pushed Jackson up to 18th place. But Jackson and Schumacher have shown HAAS's potential in terms of pace. But because Baku is really a power circuit, and even the B-spec power unit cannot help with deficiencies on the straights for the HAAS cars, so expect them to get swamped probably and lapped very quickly, because their straight line speed is just not there for this track. But the Ferrari B-spec has kind of handled it somewhat and negated the issue, but sadly they were on the back row of the grid. But in practice they were somewhat competitive, around 15th to 18th place, both HAAS drivers, so it definitely is an improvement. And because it came from Ferrari, it means that HAAS don't have to worry about their upgrade costs. Because don't forget, HAAS going into 2021, the least developed car on the grid, all resources going into 2022, but because the Ferrari B-spec came from them, it doesn't really harm them in terms of upgrades, so it's an upgrade they can have, so to speak. And it certainly will be appreciated, because HAAS will now bring HAAS a little bit closer to the likes of the Williams and Alfa Romeos. They are right in the mix with the Alpines today, with Ocon in 16th place and Alonso in 20th, so they definitely are up there, and they will be around Alpine in terms of engine power. The engine power certainly will help as HAAS continue to kind of just trudge through this season, although Jackson and Schumacher, to be fair, have really brought the car to lofty heights. Monaco was definitely their best race as a team, even though Aiden Jackson, if he hadn't had that front wing change due to a fault, he probably would have finished higher than he did. And Schumacher did very well to stay ahead of Ricciardo, although it is Monaco and overtaking is nigh on impossible. That is not going to be the case here. It is a street circuit, but it's a lot more wide open for overtaking, particularly down the front straight. As we light up on the grid, green flag at the back, 5 lights coming on ahead of the drivers for round 6 of the 2021 Formula 1 season. It is lights out, away we go, go, go. And Sergio Perez has had a great start, it seems like, ahead of Max Verstappen. And the Mercedes are battling, going into turn 1. Who won out there? I think it was Lewis Hamilton, Lando Norris and Charles Leclerc, Carlos Sainz, Lance Stroll, Yuki Tsunoda, Daniel Ricciardo. So Tsunoda has gone from 12th to 9th already. Great start by Tsunoda. As he's already in the points. Daniel Ricciardo dropping down to 10th. Kimi Raikkonen and Pierre Gasly. There's a HAAS in there. How on earth did that get there? Who is it? It's Aiden Jackson. Aiden Jackson's in 13th place. How on earth did he get there? Phenomenal start from Aiden Jackson. He was 18th on the grid. Wow. Aiden Jackson has absolutely come out swinging in that HAAS car. Unbelievable stuff from the rookie in the first 2 corners. Wow, there he is. Oh my word, how on earth did he get there? That is astounding. Wow. Well, shocks personified in corner 3, as Aiden Jackson is apparently in 13th place. He beat Russell, Ocon, Vettel, Giovinazzi, all in that 5 people in the first corner, up to 13th from 18th on the grid. Phenomenal start by Jackson. He's probably going to get swamped as the race enters the kind of fizzling out phase, as it were, but Jackson will take that start, that's for sure. Sergio Perez still has the lead from Max Verstappen. It's grown to almost half a second already. Sergio Perez is on the medium tyres, and Max Verstappen is once again on the softs. So Red Bull going for probably double mediums after his first stop, meaning Verstappen pretty much has surpassed Perez right now. The tyres won't take so much of a battering here because of the long straights, but obviously Max Verstappen's softs will have done a lap or 2 in qualifying. He's right up with Perez as we enter lap 2 then. And is that a car going into the pits? I think that might have been the Williams of George Russell as Aiden Jackson exit round the outside of Sebastian Vettel. Go on, son. Great move by Jackson to stay in 13th place. Schumacher's down the inside of Alonso. I think Alonso actually passed him. Russell's in the pits for a front wing change, so he's had a knock with someone on lap 1. That's unfortunate for George Russell, who's looking very promising up there in P15. But unfortunately now he'll be at the back of the field, and he will be hoping for a safety car later in the race. It is a very high chance of a safety car in this Grand Prix. So here's the start from Aiden Jackson. A lot of wheel spin off the line, but then absolutely sent it into turn 1. How on earth did he get the car slowed down to avoid Antonio Giovinazzi there? And he stays to the inside. Oh my word! Aiden Jackson absolutely sent it. That's how he got up there. Oh, there is no short of confidence of Aiden Jackson. There he goes as we look at the replay for George Russell. Absolutely aggression personified from Jackson. And not only that, he slowed the car down enough to avoid an airplane collision. Wow. Aiden Jackson, no fear on that boy, I'll tell you that for free. So here we are then with George Russell on board in this replay. We're going to find out why George had to take to the pit lane. It is a hit on Giovinazzi, but is it really enough to damage his front wing? I don't think so. That looks relatively harmless, but Williams obviously sees something you don't.
Great start, Aiden. You're P13. Repeat, P13. We're not entirely sure how you slowed down the car, but very well done regardless. I know, right? I'm surprised myself. Copy that.
So I'm not the only one who was surprised by HAAS showing up in P13 at the end of the first lap. Jackson and his pit crew were surprised themselves. HAAS having no idea how he stopped the car, and I don't think any of us do. But now he's getting swamped. Sebastian Vettel and Antonio Giovinazzi have both passed him before even the first corner has come up. So now it's back to reality for Jackson, but he's not going to take it not fighting, is he? And it's Vettel down the inside of Giovinazzi into turn 2. Jackson might have DRS. It is close enough. He's seen the gap on the left-hand side and is going for it. And he's past Vettel. DRS and ERS deployed from Aiden Jackson. He's going to get ahead of Giovinazzi as well, is he? Oh, he's side by side, clean as you like. Aiden Jackson back into 13th place. Oh my goodness, this boy is fearless at this very moment. You can see why he's starting to get comparisons to Max Verstappen. His fearless overtaking moves have won hearts already in his first 6 races, and that might just be the pick of the bunch. Look at this. He gets swamped by Vettel and Giovinazzi, which is probably to be expected. Giovinazzi and Vettel, I think, are both on soft tyres, but Jackson doesn't give it up. Look at this. He waits, he picks his moment, waits for them to battle, and then sees a gap developing on the left as Vettel and Giovinazzi battling. Vettel won't have DRS, Giovinazzi does, and somehow, someway, Jackson has the power and grunt down this straight to pass Giovinazzi. Now, of course, both Alfa Romeo and HAAS are using the new B-Spec power unit, as are the Ferrari Works team, of course, so it is even in terms of engine power, but Jackson absolutely hung Giovinazzi and Vettel out to dry. What a move by Jackson. Absolutely phenomenal. The boy is absolutely fearless, and he's clean. He's absolutely clean. I'm still amazed he even got the car slowed down in the first 2 corners, going into 13th place. The boy just oozes talent. In the first 6 races, there is no fear on Aiden Jackson. You have to admire his determination, and his racecraft already is very much above most of his peers already, as Max Verstappen takes to the outside to pass Sergio Perez here. Now Max is on the soft tyres. He needs to get this move done if he's going to make some kind of strategy work. They're still side by side going into turn 2. Now down the straight, who's going to get DRS? I believe Verstappen was behind. It was Perez who's going to get DRS. There's a Mercedes, Lewis Hamilton, I think, trying to slither down the inside. He thinks better of it and stays behind. So Perez was behind Verstappen in the detection point for DRS, and that's why he got it and got back in front. So well played there by Sergio Perez, as Aiden Jackson now falls to Antonio Giovinazzi. Eventually it will kind of pan out and be a return to reality, but I think Jackson will take it. He'll take whatever he can get today. He's had a great start in the first 4 laps, but once a car passes the HAAS, he might fall away a little bit, and here's what happened. So Giovinazzi once again with DRS, ERS and soft tyres, and does Jackson get passed by Vettel again? He does, and it's almost the same as happened on the previous time. Jackson hanging around the outside of Vettel. Go on, son. A 4-time world champion? No big deal for Aiden Jackson. He's having a stunner. Absolute stunning stuff from Jackson. He's hanging around the outside. Oh my word. He is earning stars today, Aiden Jackson. Round the outside, keeping it against a 4-time world champion Sebastian Vettel with a Merc power unit, no less. Oh my goodness. It's almost like Michael Schumacher, isn't it? Where the talent of the driver makes up for the deficiencies of the car. Aiden Jackson is doing that in the first 4 laps of this race. We are only on lap 4. And now we have a possible overtaking manoeuvre as Lewis Hamilton is going to be in DRS range of Max Verstappen here. And this is not going to do well for Verstappen's race. He's just on the soft tyres. He's going to have DRS from Perez, mind you. Hamilton takes to the outside, and we can't really see what's going on. We're on board now with Lewis Hamilton. He just tries to slip it down the outside. And I think he got Verstappen, you know. No, Verstappen's going to try and hang it around through turn 2. And he gives Lewis the room. And Lewis powers past. Oh my word, the Merc power unit absolutely telling for Lewis Hamilton there. He's going to have DRS. And Max is going to have DRS as well. I don't know where Max is getting DRS from, but he'll try and hang it around turn 3. Here we go. And Hamilton has got him. Brilliant stuff from Lewis Hamilton. Great racing there by Max Verstappen to give him the room to fit the car through there. And here is Aiden Jackson on Alfa Romeo. That's Giovinazzi, so he's going to repass Giovinazzi. Absolutely sending it down turn 1. Look at how clean that is. Oh my word, the braking from Jackson is phenomenal. He's got such braking power in that car. And he is up back into P13. Aiden Jackson is going down swinging. If he is going to go down the positions later on, he's certainly going to make the use of the battling while he can. Oh my word, if there's one thing that HAAS can do, it's battle with other drivers, and Jackson is making the most of it to show what he can do for his future. And so we have Sergio Perez now in the lead from Lewis Hamilton. They are in the prime position now because they are on the medium tyres, whereas Max is on the softs and really losing out. I would not be surprised if we see Max back in the pits in a lap or 2, because he seems to be falling away in terms of pace. He's now falling into the clutches of Valtteri Bottas in the Mercedes, and that's going to be DRS assisted as they go down the longest straight in Formula 1, twice the length of Shanghai's back straight. Norris is ahead of Leclerc, who's ahead of Sainz, who's ahead of Stroll. Yuki Tsunoda up from 12th to 8th, or 9th rather. Daniel Ricciardo down to 10th. Max Verstappen is in the pits, and he is going to get rid of those soft tyres. He's going to be followed by McLaren. Who is that? Is that Ricciardo in there? Or is it Norris? I think it's Ricciardo. So Ricciardo's in the pits. He's changing tyres, and this will be mostly when most of the soft runners are coming in. There's Mick Schumacher going down the inside of a Williams. That's Nicholas Latifi there. And Schumacher now is into P14. And guess where Aiden Jackson is, lads? He's P9. He is P9. Aiden Jackson is in the points for Haas at the moment. And we've got Schumacher down the side by side with Nicholas Latifi. Is he going to get DRS there? He is. And he is going to slot ahead of Latifi. Great move by Mick Schumacher. Max Verstappen is in a pretty precarious position here because he's got two battling drivers in front of him, and he's on the medium tyres now. But of course he'll have the tyre life advantage against Latifi and Schumacher, but he's not going to pass them there. The straights will be their best bet. And there's Carlos Sainz, who also was in the pits. He went through to Q3 on the soft tyres, so that's why he is down in P16. Daniel Ricciardo is now down to P17, I believe. And then we got Gasly, Vettel, and George Russell. George Russell, of course, pitting on lap 1 for a front wing change, which looked pretty harmless with Antonio Giovinazzi there. I'm not sure why he had to pit, but obviously Williams saw something we don't. So here's the updated order then. We've got Sergio Perez leading from Lewis Hamilton by a second. So Perez, he certainly knows his way around here. He scored a podium for Racing Point a few years ago. Hamilton is behind, followed by Bottas in very close proximity there. Lando Norris, Charles Leclerc, Lance Stroll's up into P6 now. Tsunoda P7, Raikkonen P8, Jackson P9, and Antonio Giovinazzi completing the top 10. Valtteri Bottas has passed Lewis Hamilton somewhere. He has. He was round the outside of turn 1. What a bold move by Valtteri Bottas on your teammate. And a 7-time world champion at that. No T-ballers at Mercedes. They do run their drivers fairly evenly, to a point, and then it gets to who is in the championship battle first later in the year. But right now, it is equal status between the Mercedes drivers, and Valtteri Bottas has definitely had the better season than Hamilton so far, winning 3 races at the first 5 or 6, with Hamilton taking 2 of them as well. But it looks like Sergio Perez might be odds on to win today. He is in prime position on the medium tyres. He can go long compared to his teammate Max Verstappen, who was on the medium tyres. But of course he will probably have to pit again because he only came in on lap 6. So there'll be no doubt that he'll be moving on to a second, third of mediums later in the race. And Valtteri Bottas now, and Lewis Hamilton just doesn't seem to be with it on street circuits. It's a Mercedes kind of trade, as it were. Monaco was not a great race for Lewis Hamilton, down in behind Bottas by quite some margin actually, and now he's lost out to Bottas here. He'll be very much looking forward to the next round in France, because that'll be the end of the street circuits for a while until we get to Saudi Arabia. There's no Singapore Grand Prix this year, as Aiden Jackson now runs in P6 in the HAAS after a tremendous start and a tremendous first 7 laps where he is fighting that car into places it shouldn't be. What an effort from Jackson so far. He obviously will have to pit later on. Lando Norris is within range, I think, of DRS on Lewis Hamilton. He has got it. So what's Norris going to do? And Hamilton should have DRS on Bottas, you'd think, and he is going to use that to his advantage, and he will stay in P3. That's Max Verstappen passing Antonio Giovinazzi. Mick Schumacher is now in 10th position, so both Haases are running in the points. Although, curse of the commentators, because I think Schumacher is being passed around the outside by Carlos Sainz, and it's just such a shame that the Haas will just get swamped down this back straight if they don't break. Jackson's broken DRS on Esteban Ocon, so because Ocon's in an Alpine, which will be slightly underpowered compared to the Ferrari B-Spec PU in the Haas, that might aid Jackson a little bit if he can keep out of DRS range. He's 2 seconds ahead of Ocon, so that's impressive for Aiden Jackson. But Mick Schumacher can't seem to break the DRS range of those behind him, and they are the majority of faster cars. And Ricciardo and Sainz down the inside there. Pierre Gasly on Lance Stroll. They have Lance Stroll is obviously pitted now. That's why he's down into P13 on the medium tyres, and there's contact there, I think, between Stroll and Tsunoda. and if it was anything like the George Russell and Antonio Giovinazzi collision, we will see Yuki Tsunoda in the pits later, because that would a harder hit than George Russell and Giovinazzi on lap 1, so he might be most certainly in the pits. Speaking of George Russell, there he is. He's up in the P18, but obviously Giovinazzi and Latifi have pitted already. And we're already on lap 8, and we've got so much action here on lap 8 already of this race. I think the only action we haven't got is at the front, because Sergio Perez has a commanding lead. And now, Lewis Hamilton looks very, very close to Bottas here, and he is going to get DRS. Bottas is going to have nothing to defend. He takes Lewis further inside than he would like, and he holds it round the outside. Valtteri Bottas is staying ahead of Lewis Hamilton here. We're getting a battle between the Mercedes boys. We haven't seen this in quite some time. And Bottas is definitely in his fight mood this afternoon, as Max Verstappen is carving his way through the field on those medium tyres now. He's just dispatched of, let me check, Esteban Ocon in the Alpine, and he's coming up to Aiden Jackson. Now that's going to be an interesting battle. It's going to be the man Max Verstappen versus the man who's gaining very much a lot of comparisons to Max Verstappen. They're going to be racing together on the track pretty soon. This man, Sergio Perez, commanding out front, and he's being helped by the fact that the Mercedes are battling each other. They probably should stop battling each other and focus on trying to catch Perez, because he is in a commanding 2-second lead over the guys behind him. Bottas can run very well around here. Perez can run very well around here. He scored a podium for Racing Point a few years ago. I believe it was 2018 or 2019 he scored that. In 2020 we weren't here, of course. And, well, here's the man who's going to be turning a lot of heads by the end of this race. That start from Aiden Jackson truly was something really special. And for a guy who's only in his 6th race in Formula 1, the way he slowed down that car was sensational. He's forcing Max to go wider into that corner than he would like. Aiden Jackson is getting his elbows out today, and he's doing phenomenally at it. No contact with any of the drivers. I think he had a slight brush with Giovinazzi's tyre early on, but that's all you get from Jackson. You get the feeling that a lot of people are really going to like racing Aiden Jackson, because he'll give you the room and respect, but he'll also give you a fight. Here we go down the straight. Nothing Jackson can do about the Red Bull of Max Verstappen. He concedes the position, he picks his moment to fight, and he picks his moment to concede. And against Max Verstappen, you pretty much have to concede, because Max Verstappen's driving style really does make people fear him when it comes to racing, because Max is hard racing, and that's why Jackson is getting so many comparisons to him already. Lewis Hamilton has got back past Bottas then, unbeknownst to us. We've just come onto this battle. There's a bit of a train forming for the Mercedes today. We don't see this very often. Lando Norris and Charles Leclerc are right on the clutches of these two at the moment, and so they continue to battle. Maybe Norris and Leclerc can make something of it. It's great to see Charles Leclerc actually so far, like, having the beating of Sainz at the moment. He's definitely had it today, although Sainz probably qualified ahead of him in qualifying. Sainz had a grid penalty, of course. But even before the new B-Spec unit, Leclerc was doing really well. So this new B-Spec unit will definitely aid him in the future. He's definitely had the upper hand on Sainz to a degree. But it's been fairly even so far. Sainz has really adapted to that Ferrari really well in the first 5 or 6 races. Mick Schumacher there running in P11. Daniel Ricciardo is now in P8, chasing Aiden Jackson in the HAAS. And Ricciardo's done really well because he pitted earlier. So Ricciardo doing really well up there in P8 already, and now ahead of Sainz. Pierre Gasly completes your top 10. Yuki Tsunoda, who had a great start, is now down in last. He probably had to pit for a front wing damage, I would have thought. And Jackson ran wide in the penultimate corner there, as these two aren't really corners, although they are officially. So it was about 3 corners to the end. And now Daniel Ricciardo is going to get DRS on Jackson. Is Jackson going to try and hang it with Ricciardo? Ricciardo does have the Merc power unit, which is the most powerful on the grid, if you want to believe the stats, as it were, although racing on the track, things can be very different. But the performance of the McLaren with the upgraded power unit of going to Mercedes, because they had Renault last year, so it really tells on that one. Aiden Jackson again just being forced to concede the position. He does try to have a look at Daniel Ricciardo, and that would be This would be very good to see if Jackson could actually hang it with Ricciardo, because Daniel Ricciardo is another one of those fearless overtakers. So we've got 3 in that kind of category. We've got Max Verstappen, Daniel Ricciardo, and Aiden Jackson most certainly is in that bracket in discussion now. Meanwhile, back at the front, Sergio Perez is kind of keeping his lead over Hamilton. Still just over 2 seconds, but he's busy fending off his teammate Lando Norris and Charles Leclerc. We've got a bit of a train forming. Hamilton and Bottas are going the longest because they are on the medium tyres. Bottas, I think, also was on the medium tyres because he's gone quite long as well. And Max Verstappen has passed Ricciardo recently, so he's gone past him as well, though Ricciardo did pass Jackson, he was already ahead, wasn't he? So Perez now, his lead is up to 2.7 seconds, so it's almost a 3-second lead, but he's coming into the pits now. Sergio Perez from the lead is coming in. I believe Hamilton is coming in behind him, so Bottas is going to try and overcut here. Lando Norris is also in the pits. So look at the stop from Red Bull. It's pretty slick, but he has to wait for Norris and Leclerc to go by him, but he comfortably beats Hamilton out of the pits actually. Great stop from Red Bull. Max Verstappen will now assume second place as he will try to make up the deficit from having to stop early. Will he get ahead of Bottas? He might, you know. He's only 12 seconds behind Valtteri Bottas, so Max Verstappen is definitely making this work as Jackson now gets ahead of Norris there into P7. Jackson is still yet to pit on those medium tyres, which probably took some punishment in the opening laps because Jackson was probably having massive lockups, and there is Sainz and Hamilton in battle with Jackson trying. He brakes late and he almost took Sainz out there. He had a look at Sainz. Oh my word. Oh my goodness. You cannot doubt the fear, like lack of fear fact. He is fearless. Aiden Jackson, you've got to admire that. Absolutely rigging the neck of this car and just throwing it around, and he's keeping it in one piece as well. Aiden Jackson, you've got to admire the fearlessness and the determination and the will to fight from Aiden Jackson in his very young Formula 1 career is nothing short of sensational at the moment. So back at the front now, we believe Bottas will be hitting this lap. He's 12.2 ahead of Max Verstappen, with Perez a further second behind. Daniel Ricciardo has made the undercut work. He is now in P4 in the race, ahead of Lewis Hamilton. So Ricciardo has done very well to make up a lot of the lost time in the early pit stop. No doubt he'll have to stop again, however. Lap 12, and in comes the race leader, Valtteri Bottas. It is now Max Legion putting down hammer time in Max Verstappen form, because he's going to have to go some to make up some of the time he'll lose out. He'll lose the lead to Perez, no doubt, because Perez is on it today, as Max Verstappen will assume the lead. Bottas is probably going to come out in a bit of a traffic jam here. Aiden Jackson's in the pits as well, after a great first 12 laps in this race. And he'll no doubt move to the hard tyres, because HAAS has been very reluctant to run the soft tyres in any circumstances during the races, because it just wouldn't help them out anyway. Slick stop from the HAAS boys. Slick stop indeed. Jackson is going to be in clean air now, behind Giovinazzi there. He's going to beat the Williams cars of Russell and Latifi rather comfortably. So Aiden Jackson has definitely made those first 12 laps work on those tyres, which probably took some real punishment in the first 12 laps. But Jackson is now on the hard tyres to the end of the race, no doubt. Yuki Tsunoda down there in last place, having to pit. He's making no inroads on the Williams cars in front of him, however. And Nicholas Latifi has just fallen off the radar a little bit. He's now behind Russell, and Russell had to pit on lap 1. So Latifi's unfortunately fallen off a little bit. Daniel Ricciardo is showing us 3rd place right now. What an effort from Ricciardo. He'll most likely have to pit, but he's right on the tail of Sergio Perez, who's on the hard tyres. So Perez is going to the end. I think Lewis is going to the end as well on the hard tyres. So Perez, Hamilton have made the right calls today on the strategy. They will inherit first and second from Max Verstappen when he inevitably pits for a second time. No doubt for a second set of medium tyres. They can probably spare that. Now, this is going to be interesting. Daniel Ricciardo here. DRS. Perez sees him coming. Takes to the middle of the circuit. Ricciardo goes down the inside. And is he going to get this move done on the Red Bull Honda of Sergio Perez? No, Perez has great traction and power coming out of the first corner, and he will keep the position. Sergio Perez can race, there is no doubting that. Sergio Perez is also a master of looking after his tyres, and he's had it all his own way in this race so far, leading from the front. This is the perfect scenario for a man like Perez to be in. Mick Schumacher coming into the pits. For HAAS, he was running in the top 10 momentarily. It's just so upsetting to see HAAS at such lofty heights today, and it all be not wasted, but all be undone by the inevitability of falling behind. It is such a shame. And I don't know about you, but I think Schumacher's engine was sounding rather rough there. He is slow on this straight, and there's an engine failure. Bang! The HAAS engine is gone. That's the new Ferrari power unit up in smoke, and Schumacher also took a component change in qualifying, meaning he was starting 19th for the grid penalty, and that's gone. And that's not going to vote well for the rest of his season, and HAAS is now, all their hopes lie on Aiden Jackson. And to be honest, you probably couldn't have a better man to lay your hopes on, because he's had a stunning start to the year. Aiden Jackson, to be fair.
Okay, mate, Mick has dropped out of the race with an engine failure. There's going to be yellow flags by turn 2. Just watch yourself. Oh, he's alright though, right? He's fine. He's out of the car. Copy.
Frustration in Aiden Jackson there. He obviously values Schumacher very highly. He's rated him. He was a hero of... Michael Schumacher was one of Aiden Jackson's heroes, he revealed in the press conference earlier this weekend. And to be fair, Schumacher and Jackson have worked very well in tandem this year, as we have a battle here between Hamilton and Carlos Sainz, of all people, as Sainz went round the outside there of Lewis Hamilton. What is going on with Lewis Hamilton in this race? He doesn't really seem to be on it. A lot like Monaco, but then street circuits are Mercedes' Achilles heel, so maybe it's just the characteristics of the car as they will pass the yellow flag zone for Mick Schumacher's stricken HAAS. Valtteri Bottas is right on the tail of Lewis Hamilton in this one. Hamilton's had a really below par few races, a couple of races, definitely Monaco. I don't think he was behind Bottas in Spain as well. Hamilton's not having the best of it at the moment, but he also can make up for the deficiencies in that car on street circuits. We all remember Singapore 2008, where he pulled that 2018, my apologies, where he pulled that massive pole lap out of the bag at Singapore to earn pole position for that race. But today he looks a little bit off colour, to be fair. He's not really had the measure of Bottas. He's back at the Bottas now, however, and now he's behind Sainz and Ferrari, which proves the B-spec power unit in that car is powerful, and it will definitely aid the Ferrari power teams later in the year when they come to places like Saudi Arabia. That's going to be a real power track later on. Completion is still ongoing. We do have the confirmation that they will be finished by the time we arrive there in November. Max Verstappen now leads by 2 seconds from Sergio Perez, but unfortunately he will have to pit again and lose the lead. Max Verstappen has just not gone his way. We talk about Lewis Hamilton having an off-colour couple of races. Max Verstappen just really hasn't had the season that we really expected. To be fair, however, Max did have a couple of engine failures at Imola and Spain to kind of dampen that a little bit. Lewis Hamilton down the outside of Carlos Sainz. Easy move from Lewis Hamilton. He's back in the groove. Bottas trying to look around the outside, then trying to switch to the inside, and then back to the outside to try and pass Sainz. Great defending there by Carlos Sainz. And man of the race for me, Daniel Ricciardo. He's made the overcut work as Vettel comes into the pits. And there's a move there. It's Ocon and Giovinazzi. Giovinazzi around the outside. Esteban Ocon with DRS assisted. And Ocon tries to hang it in around the inside. Now we're going to go drag race down this straight. It's going to be a factor of who has DRS. I think it was Ocon. We're now looking at Aiden Jackson with still comfortably ahead of Nicholas Latifi, to be fair. Still 3 seconds ahead. So they're not good down the straights, HAAS, but they certainly can keep ahead of you when they have a bit of a gap to you. So Aiden Jackson really making the most of it. I think the HAAS has looked really strong in the corners this race, to be fair. And Jackson really showed that in the early part of this race. And, well, race order. Max Verstappen from Sergio Perez by 2 seconds. Daniel Ricciardo right on Perez's tail. Lewis Hamilton, Carlos Sainz, Valtteri Bottas down to 6th now. Charles Leclerc, Lando Norris, Lance Stroll, Kimi Raikkonen is in the points for Alfa Romeo now. Fernando Alonso up to 11th. He was last on the grid, so that's a good effort. Esteban Ocon, Antonio Giovinazzi, Aiden Jackson, Nicholas Latifi, Pierre Gasly, Yuki Tsunoda, Sebastian Vettel and George Russell Vettel just coming out of the pits earlier. The only retirement being the unfortunate Mick Schumacher, as Max Verstappen comes into the pits to put another set of tyres on. So that's unfortunately for Max Verstappen. He had to pit again. Ricciardo also having to pit, so that was pretty much expected as well. And he's got to wait for Ricciardo to go by. He'll lose like a tenth there, but slick stop from the Red Bull crew as to be expected. Carlos Sainz still on pits, so that's a surprising couple of pit stops there from Sainz. He was right in the midst of it, but obviously he probably damaged the tyres a lot more than he would have wanted. But of course Sainz was on the soft tyres at the start of the race, so he had to make up for that. Charles Leclerc now is in P4 on the hard tyres, so he's going to the end of the race. There's just 9 laps left. And now we're having the leaderboard showing Jackson in P12 behind Lance Stroll in P11. Did Stroll pass him, or I think Jackson was already behind him, wasn't he? So is he caught Stroll on that? I think Stroll pitted actually. So that's probably why he's showing as not so far behind Lance Stroll at the moment. So let's see. Sainz has already pitted, so Jackson can't pass Sainz now. So he needs Ocon down to Giovinazzi to pit again. If two of those guys pit, then Jackson will run in P10 at the moment, which would be a phenomenal performance for HAAS. And we'll just have to see if we can hang on to it. So now Sergio Perez has really a clear run to the flag now. 2 seconds, 2.5 seconds clear of Lewis Hamilton. 9 to go. Max Verstappen now has it all to do, probably to get back on the podium, but knowing Max Verstappen, he'll make it work. He's got Lando Norris, Charles Leclerc and Valtteri Bottas to chase down ahead. He is, I think that's 4 seconds behind Norris, so that's doable. And I think Norris and Leclerc are going to the end of the race. I think everyone from Perez down to Norris are on the hard tyres and going to the end of the race. So Max will have a tyre advantage over those ahead. Maybe he can make it all back up. But I don't think anyone is battling with Perez today, as Bottas gets back ahead of Lewis Hamilton as the Mercedes continue to battle amongst themselves. And I think this is just making Perez's job a heck of a lot easier as well. And did Lewis have DRS there? And Giovinazzi's coming in, and Jackson's jumped him. So it's P11 now for Aiden Jackson. If Ocon or Stroll pit, Aiden Jackson will be P10. Gets a bit out of shape there, Jackson. He's on the hard tyres, he'll be going to the end of the race. What is Gasly on behind him? That's the question. I think Gasly might be on the mediums, so he might have the beating of Jackson at that point. Now, oh, Stroll has passed Ocon. So Stroll is now into P9. So Stroll and Perez, the two men that we mentioned at the start of the race, having another good one around Baku. And this man, well, you can't fault him today. Aiden Jackson is at a storming race, and he might just, maybe, be on for a World Championship point. And I'll tell you something for free, there's no man who deserves it more than Jackson in these first 6 races. Charles Leclerc is very close to the back of Lewis Hamilton here. What is going to happen? Will Leclerc have DRS? Here we come to the detection point now. And we've cut away. We don't really want to do that, Mr. Director. We want to see Charles Leclerc, because I'm sure he had DRS on Lewis Hamilton. I don't think he's passed him, however. Max Verstappen is he's already ahead of Ricciardo, wasn't he? So Lance Stroll is actually getting way ahead of Esteban Ocon then. So I wonder if Ocon's got a problem, because Stroll is actually pulling away from him rather quickly. And Jackson's being chased by Pierre Gasly. And down the inside goes Pierre Gasly. And Jackson, who was actually running 10th, we actually didn't notice it. He's going back around the outside. Jackson is fighting for a World Championship point. Oh, and we didn't notice it, but Jackson is now running 10th. But he's got Pierre Gasly breathing down his neck. What tyres is he? Oh, he's on the mediums. Ah. It's going to be such a shame. Jackson's going to have nothing to fight Gasly with. He gave it a good go. But here is where Jackson is at his strongest. But those straights are killing the HAAS today. Or at least Jackson's, because unfortunately Schumacher is out of the race. Oh, What a shame. Aiden Jackson running in a championship point position here. But he's going to probably be passed by Gasly rather soon. But he gave Gasly a move around the outside, the trademark move by Aiden Jackson today. Well, nobody knew this kid. A few months ago, Aiden Jackson was a Mercedes development driver who lit F2 on fire with a finish in 6th position. He won at Silverstone in the feature race. He won at Monza in the sprint race. He was front runner to be HAAS's second driver officially before being unceremoniously snubbed for Nikita Mazepin. And now the inevitable is about to happen. Here Gasly down the outside and blasts past him. He's going to have DRS as well. And where is Sebastian Vettel? Is he going to pass Jackson as well? Oh, what a shame. What a terrible shame for Aiden Jackson. He's had a race that deserves it. And he'll have DRS, but he may not have enough to challenge the Honda power in that AlphaTauri. And Jackson will have DRS, but he is gaining a little bit. Is he going to have a look? Is he going to lunge down the inside? He had a look, but he thought better of it. Good decision by Jackson on that one. What a shame. Terrible shame for all of us here, I think.
I'm so sorry, guys. I had nothing. It's okay. The effort's appreciated. Just keep your head down. 6 laps to go. Copy.
The frustration of Aiden Jackson is very, very noticeable today. He's had a stunning race, and I think that's the first time we've had to use the beat machine on Aiden Jackson, but I think he's just really frustrated with the fact that he could not hold that position. Oh, what a dreadful shame. Max Verstappen now down the inside of Lando Norris, down the straight, going into turn 1, and Max Verstappen will have a tyre advantage over Lando Norris. And now we're making the... Oh, is there contact there between the Mercedes boys as Hamilton and Bottas continue to fight amongst each other, and it's giving Bottas a clean run to the flag. Oh, and now here comes Sebastian Vettel on Aiden Jackson just to make things worse. And there he goes. And oh, Jackson, he's losing place. His hand over fist. Is Raikkonen going to get him as well? Here he comes. Jackson has nothing to fight Raikkonen with, but he's going to try and hold it down the outside. He's done it again, Jackson. He's so good around that corner. He's phenomenal around that corner. He seems to hold positions, but oh my goodness. Oh, hearts are breaking for Aiden Jackson right now. This kid is going to have such a following at Silverstone. It's going to be a frenzy atmosphere, not just for Hamilton, but for Jackson as well. I'll tell you this for free. The future of British motorsport races, even after Lewis Hamilton, is so bright. We've got George Russell on the eve, possibly, of getting the Mercedes seat in replacement for Valtteri Bottas, where hopefully George Russell can earn his first win in 2022. Lando Norris is coming into his own over the last 2 seasons now, and Aiden Jackson in just his 6th race is getting notoriety beyond anything he ever imagined in a car that's the least developed on the grid. And yeah, you have to say, we've even got other ones coming through as well. And the hope of British motorsport after Lewis Hamilton, and we're still going to have Hamilton for a year or 2 more. He wants to test out the new cars in 2022. Who can blame him? And Aiden Jackson will be hoping. Well, will he even have a seat? Aiden Jackson, we mentioned earlier, but he was rather snubbed for Nikita Mazepin, and then Mazepin had a controversial video surface on his social media account, which forced the FIA to take action and demote him to 3rd driver for the year. And there's every expectation that Mazepin will be back in that car for 2022. Where will Aiden Jackson end up? Well, he's probably not going to be thinking about that right now, but his heart's going to have to sink, because Raikkonen and Alonso, with 3 World Championships between them, have just passed him with almost complete ease down that straight. Jackson's going to have DRS going into the same corner though. Raikkonen and Alonso are going to fight, and is Jackson going to use the move he did earlier in the race? He is, Here he comes. He goes to the left. Jackson goes to the right. Raikkonen's passing along to the left. Oh my goodness, Jackson veered to the left. How did he do that? And he's going to... Oh my word! Jackson with the reaction to the cat. Oh my word. Sensational reaction there from Jackson. How did he do that without losing his front wing? I have no words at the moment. That was unbelievable racing. Alonso down the inside on the medium tyres. And I think the Alfa Romeo had the soft tyre, no, the medium tyres on. So Jackson had a tyre disadvantage here. Jackson had a tyre disadvantage, but because Raikkonen and Alonso were so busily battling each other, that is a double move on two men with 3 world championships between them in a least developed car. This Aiden Jackson kid is sensational. Look at this. He tries to go to the left, Raikkonen blocks him off. Jackson then takes to the right, Alonso shuts the door, he veers to the left, and somehow Jackson slows the car down. Raikkonen locks up, Jackson takes full advantage, no contact, phenomenal stuff by Aiden Jackson. He has had a stunning race today. He deserves a World Championship point. This has been a tremendous effort. Charles Leclerc has passed Valtteri Bottas as well during all of that. Oh my word, this race is absolutely off the charts. Once again, Baku has served us up some fantastic racing. Max Verstappen has now passed Valtteri Bottas as well. Bottas is sinking like a boat. He's down in P5. Daniel Ricciardo has made his way back up to P7. Phenomenal effort from him. And what is going to happen here? We're going to be back to Jackson again because the race director knows that if we follow Jackson, we'll have some action. Raikkonen down the outside has already passed him. Alonso goes round the outside, cutting off Jackson's lane round the outside. And Jackson's going to hold it in down the inside. No fear on Aiden Jackson today. Absolutely fearless. He's going toe-to-toe with a 2-time world champion and a 1-time world champion and even a 4-time world champion, Sebastian Vettel. Oh my word. Oh. Well, Jackson, on this evidence, he deserves a seat. There is rumours that he will take the Williams seat for George Russell. There's also rumours that Alex Albon might take a Williams seat. So Jackson could be snubbed again and overlooked. But, well, I'll tell you something, HAAS might have him for only this year, but, oh my goodness, he's going to get a bunch of leaving presents to the highest degree because he has given HAAS lofty heights, especially today. Stunning stuff. We are 3 laps from the end of this absolutely enthralling Azerbaijan Grand Prix. Now Max Verstappen is making his way through the field, and in typical Max Verstappen vintage fashion, he's made his way back up to 4th, chasing Charles Leclerc, and he's not very much far behind Lewis Hamilton either. So we can have a pass for a Red Bull 1-2, but the laps are running out pretty quickly. And now Jackson and Alonso again, with Giovinazzi riding in the wings as well. And what will Jackson do to defend his position this time, you have to think. He's going to get Alonso's going to have DRS. But that means nothing to Jackson. Absolutely nothing. He's staying to the outside. Alonso needs to get and cut him off quickly, because Jackson will come back down the outside of you if you're not careful. He's lost out to Giovinazzi as well. And Jackson, well, he might get swamped, but he fights back. And now he's going to dive down the inside of Giovinazzi. He gets the car slowed down. Oh my word. That HAAS can do some braking. That's for definite sure. There's no shortage of brake power in that HAAS because Jackson is able to slow the car down. He's going to dive down the inside of Alonso. No. You're a bit too far out there, boy. But great effort. He had a look, didn't he? Oh. Fantastic stuff from Aiden Jackson today. He has arrived, ladies and gentlemen. Aiden Jackson has arrived today. That kid is a bona fide talent. There is no doubt about it now. If you doubted Aiden Jackson before, if you didn't even know about him before, you're going to know about his name by the end of the season. Remember the name, Aiden Jackson, because he has arrived today, ladies and gentlemen. Absolutely stunning racing. Meanwhile, back at the front, it's Charles Leclerc, Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen all in close proximity with 2 laps to go at the end of this one. Charles Leclerc going down the inside of Lewis Hamilton, and he's going to make it work, is he? Oh my word, they're hanging around turn 1. This race has been absolutely enthralling. Lewis gets better power out of the turn 1, but Charles is going to hold it. He's going to get the position. Max Verstappen slithering up there as well. We're going to have double DRS for Charles and Verstappen, I think. Verstappen is definitely going to get it. Oh, it's going to be Lewis Hamilton that gets DRS, but Leclerc is hanging in there, you know. And he's fallen behind. Oh, and we almost had a move there for second from Charles Leclerc. Absolute stunning race from him as well. Oh my goodness, these kids in Formula 1, there is no fear on them. We all remember the epic battle that Charles Leclerc and Max Verstappen had a couple of years ago. We've got Aiden Jackson making sensational moves in this race in particular. And now he's behind Giovinazzi again. Is he going to repass him going into this corner? He is, you know. Oh my goodness, he's locked. He's locked up. He's locked up. Jackson will just not give up. He will not give up. Aiden Jackson just does not give up. He fights, and he fights as much as he can. He's making up for the deficiencies in that HAAS. He has fought tooth and claw today. Sensational stuff. We've still got a race to the flag. Between Perez is out in front, comfortable on his own, but behind him, Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc and Max Verstappen are going to fight tooth and claw for second place. Bottas is coming up behind them as well. Oh my goodness, this is going to go all the way to the end. Oh, what a race. I'm running out of breath here. This is insane stuff. And now, Max Verstappen completing the comeback. Trying to pass Charles Leclerc. We're watching Jackson and Giovinazzi again for some reason. We need to be watching this. This isn't what we need to be watching. Max Verstappen round the outside into turn 1 with DRS. Got him. And is Leclerc going to hang it in? Oh, we cut away. Why did we cut away? Oh, that's a terrible cutaway there. Oh my goodness me! Oh my! Antonio Giovinazzi has veered into the wall. Oh, what an impact! Oh my goodness! No safety car deployed. The race is still going on. Antonio Giovinazzi has completely lost it and veered into the wall. He took the cut. Oh my goodness! Oh my god! What an impact! Oh. Look at that, and here's a slow-mo of that. Giovinazzi is out of the car, he's fine. He's just got out of the car, we're hearing. He's absolutely fine. He might be a bit shaken up. Look at the impact. The wheels come completely off, and then he hits the other side of the wall. And does he take Jackson with him? No, but oh my god, it was so close. Look at that, Jackson mere inches from being taken out of the race. Oh my lord.
Holy shit. Whoa. Is he okay? That looked like a hell of a hit. Where's the safety car? It's the last lap, Aiden. Last lap. Safety car not deployed. Keep your head down. 1 lap to the finish. Gio's okay, right? Jesus. That was such a hit. He's fine, Aiden. He's a little shaken, but he's fine. Oh, thank God for that. Oh, man. I was almost a passenger in that one, too. Wow.
Jackson showing obvious concern for Antonio Giovinazzi. He's out of the car and he's fine. Sergio Perez has come round the final couple of corners to win the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, which will end on a bit of a scary note. But Antonio Giovinazzi, I'm hearing, is out of the car and he's absolutely fine. He's waving to the crowd. Sergio Perez wins the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, the first non-Mercedes win of the season. Max Verstappen mere inches from Lewis Hamilton there at the end. He passed Charles Leclerc, and oh my, whew. And that was a scary impact. Aiden Jackson saw that firsthand behind him. Valtteri Bottas finishes 5th from Ricciardo, Norris, Sainz, Stroll, and Sebastian Vettel, after all his drama, is actually going to finish P10 after all of that. Pierre Gasly from Kimi Raikkonen, Fernando Alonso, driver of the day for me, right here. Aiden Jackson, fantastic drive ahead of Yuki Tsunoda by 4 seconds. Esteban Ocon beats the Williams. Antonio Giovinazzi and Mick Schumacher are your retirements. But my word, that was such a scary incident there. But the safety of Formula 1 was on full display. And that is the end of a truly enthralling race. Thankfully, Antonio Giovinazzi is okay. The safety of Formula 1 paramount again and was shown there.
Checkered flag Aiden, P14. Fantastic racing today, buddy. I'm just glad Gio's alright. Good car, boys. Sorry I couldn't bring home more. Copy that in. We'll see you back here.
Well, driver of the day apparently goes to Fernando Alonso on that screen, but not to me. Aiden Jackson had an absolute stunner. And it would have been very unfortunate if he'd been taken out, but that wouldn't have been the fault of Giovinazzi. He took the curb and it just veered away from him. But thankfully, he's alright. Sergio Perez takes the win. Max Verstappen will get the extra point for the fastest lap. Absolutely vital for Red Bull. And Max almost having a complete comeback. He was mere inches from Lewis Hamilton at the end. A phenomenal drive from Max, to be fair. Charles Leclerc P4 ahead of Bottas. That'll be a weird personal win for Ferrari. Daniel Ricciardo did very well to recover to 6th. Lando Norris, Carlos Sainz, Lance Stroll and Sebastian Vettel are your point scorers today. And wow, what a race. Action from beginning to end. Thankfully, Antonio Giovinazzi was able to walk away from that horrifying crash. Veered into the wall, veered across the track into the other wall, and despite being a little shaken, he'll be taken to the medical centre for precautions, but he is up and walking and waved to the fans. So here is the Drivers' Championship. Lewis Hamilton, his lead is down to 16, well I think he increased it to 16 points. Sergio Perez's win puts him ahead of Max Verstappen. There's still a long way to go. Charles Leclerc moves ahead of his teammate Carlos Sainz. Daniel Ricciardo moves up to 9th. Kimi Raikkonen moves up to 16th. Mick Schumacher, despite his retirement, will still be classified ahead of Aiden Jackson. Mercedes 77 points ahead of Red Bull in the constructors. That extra point that Max got for fast lap will be vital, but looks like the resurgence could be on. Sergio Perez wins his first race for Red Bull, and what a stunner. We move on to France. From here at Baku today, we hope you enjoyed it. I certainly did. We'll see you next time at Le Castellet. What a race.